The night I won Entrepreneur of the Year, my mother cried. Not because she was proud of me, but because she finally understood that she'd spent the last 3 years watching a version of me that had never actually existed. There were 400 people in that ballroom at the Omni Charlotte, and every single thing that put me on that stage, I built in the dark, alone, while my own family was busy passing around screenshots of my life and writing jokes underneath them. Let me take you back to where this actually started, because the beginning matters just as much as the ending. I grew up in a house where love was parceled out in proportion to achievement, and the achievement that counted most was the kind you could frame and hang on a wall. My sister Camille had a lot of things she could frame. She had her undergraduate degree from Duke, her medical degree from UNC Chapel Hill, her residency certificates, her fellowship distinction in neurosurgery, and eventually a position at Carolina's Medical Center that made my parents' eyes go soft every single time it was mentioned. My mother, Renee, kept a specific folder on her phone just for photos of Camille's credentials. She'd show them to people at church, at the grocery store. At my cousin's graduation party, she pulled out her phone mid-conversation with someone she'd just met and said, "This is my oldest. She's a neurosurgeon." I was standing right there. Nobody asked about me. And honestly, I'd stopped expecting them to. I was 31 years old, living in a rental house in the suburbs outside Charlotte, and I was good at my job. I want to say that clearly because it matters. I was genuinely, technically, demonstrably good at what I did. 6 years as operations manager at a multi-specialty medical center. I had built intake processing systems that cut wait times by 38%, renegotiated 3 vendor contracts that saved the clinic nearly $200,000 over 2 years. My boss, Dr. Randall Moss, had used the word indispensable in my last review and told me he was putting me up for director of operations. I drove home that evening with the windows down and let myself feel something close to proud, which was not a feeling I was particularly practiced at. Family supports family, my mother used to say. She said it like it was scripture. Sunday dinners at my parents' house in Mint Hill were a ritual I both needed and dreaded. My mother, Renee, made a full spread every week: roast chicken, collard greens, macaroni, cornbread, and the table was always beautiful, and the conversation was always, at its center, about Camille. My father, Douglas, would lean forward over his plate with genuine fascination while Camille spoke about complex surgeries and outcomes. I would listen, I would pass the bread, I would get up and refill the sweet tea, and come back to find the conversation exactly where I'd left it. My mother would catch my eye sometimes and smile. Not the warm kind, the polite kind, and say, "Vanessa, honey, grab the extra napkins from the drawer, would you?" And I would. That was my function at that table. I was the one who grabbed things, refilled things, cleared up afterward, while Camille sat with my father watching the game and laughing about something I hadn't been part of. I told myself it was fine. For a long time, I told myself it was fine. Camille worked at the same clinic, not in operations. She was on the clinical side, which was technically a separate world. But the clinic was the clinic, and she had been there for 4 years, and our paths crossed in ways that felt inevitable. She'd stop by my office sometimes, leaning in the doorway in her white coat, asking questions that seemed casual, questions about vendor relationships, about how I structured the quarterly reports, about the financial tracking software. I answered them the way I always answered my sister, fully, without guarding anything, because we were family, and family supported family. The first sign came on a Tuesday in October. I opened the scheduling system and my login credentials were suspended. Not expired, suspended. IT said it was a routine audit flag, resolved by end of day. It was resolved. I filed it away under things that have explanations. The second sign came at the following Sunday dinner. Camille was warmer than usual. Not warm like happy, but warm like performing warmth, like there was effort behind it that didn't quite line up with her face. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Camille, who was not a toucher. "I just want what's best for you. You know that, right?" I said, "Of course." The third sign came from a colleague. Maya, who worked in billing, stopped coming by my desk. She'd been stopping by for 2 years. The absence was louder than the sound it replaced. I told myself she was busy. None of it was nothing. It was a Thursday afternoon in early November when HR asked me to stay after a department head meeting. Carla from HR was still in her seat when everyone filed out, with a folder in front of her she hadn't opened yet, sitting very still in the way that told me something before she said a word. Dr. Moss was not in the room. "Vanessa," she said, "we need to talk about some concerns that have been raised regarding your conduct." She opened the folder, printed screenshots, what appeared to be internal messages with my name on them, discussing unauthorized adjustments to financial records. They were written in something close to my language, my abbreviations, my sentence structure. But the content was fabricated. Someone had studied how I communicated and then written a version of me that was guilty. "These aren't real," I said. My voice was steadier than I expected. "I didn't write these. I've never had this conversation with anyone." Carla looked at me with an expression that wasn't unkind, but wasn't quite believing either. "We understand this is difficult," she said, "but these were submitted along with supporting documentation, and given the seriousness—" "Who submitted them?" I asked. A pause. "I'm not able to share that information," she said. I sat very still for a moment. And then I noticed something small, something that should have been scrubbed but wasn't. In the file properties visible on the printed sheet, there was a creator field. It showed a username I recognized, a name I had known my entire life. They terminated my employment that afternoon. No severance. 6 years of exemplary reviews and a pending promotion, and none of that was in the room with me. I packed my office in a box. That sound, the cardboard box hitting the asphalt of the parking lot while I fumbled for my keys, I still hear it sometimes, a specific, hollow sound, the sound of something put down that you hadn't expected to put down yet. I sat in my car for a long time. Then I called Camille. The phone rang 3 times. She picked up, and her voice was careful in a way that told me she already knew. "Hey," she said. Just that. "I just got fired," I said. There was a pause. Not the pause of someone processing unexpected news. The pause of someone waiting to deliver a line they'd already rehearsed. "Oh, Vanessa," she said, with that particular softness that always meant the opposite. "I'm so sorry. That sounds really hard. Do you want me to come over?" I said no. I hung up. I sat in the parking lot for 40 more minutes and felt something inside me go very, very quiet. The weeks that followed were the kind that age you in ways that don't show on your face right away. I applied to everything I could find in healthcare operations. 3 of my strongest references had quietly declined to speak on my behalf. Their letters retracted after some unnamed concern had been raised. My LinkedIn went quiet. I had 4 months of savings, which sounds like a cushion until you do the math against rent, utilities, and student loans. I found the cleaning work through an agency called Brightline Home Services. Online application, background check, 2 references, $12 an hour to start. I had a master's degree and 6 years of operational management experience, and I was completing a background check for a job that paid $12 an hour. I am not too proud to have done it, but I also want to be honest. The quiet inside me during that period was not peace. A few weeks in, I got a call from Camille. It was a Tuesday evening, and I had just gotten home from a shift in Myers Park, still smelling like lemon bleach. I hadn't changed yet when my phone buzzed. "Hey," she said, with that rehearsed warmth I was starting to recognize more clearly now. "I've been thinking about you. How are you holding up?" "I'm okay," I said. "Good, good." A pause. "Look, I talked to Mom and Dad, and we all think, we just want to make sure you're not struggling, you know? So I want to offer a loan. 3 months rent, no pressure, pay it back whenever." Her voice had that particular gentleness people use when they want credit for generosity they've already planned. "We're family. We take care of each other." I looked at the gloves still folded in my jacket pocket. "I appreciate that," I said. "I'll think about it. Vanessa." Her voice softened further, tilting into that practiced concern. There's no shame in a setback. We all go through them. Honestly, maybe this is a chance to figure out what you really want. Not everyone is built for that kind of high-pressure environment. A small pause. I just want what's best for you. There it was, that phrase again, the one she'd said at the Sunday dinner before everything fell apart, the one that had felt like care and was something else entirely. I said goodnight and hung up. The first Sunday dinner after the firing was the one I almost didn't go to. I went anyway, because I didn't know how not to yet. My mother was making her chicken, and the table was set beautifully, and my cousin Tasha was there, and for 15 minutes, it was almost bearable. Then my mother looked at me across the table and said, with a smile perfectly calibrated to look like love, "You know, I was talking to Pastor Ellis's wife, and she mentioned her son-in-law's company is hiring. Office work, nothing glamorous, but steady. I could put in a word." She smoothed the edge of the tablecloth with 2 fingers, not looking at me. "It might be nice for you to have something to anchor you while you figure out your next steps." If you're liking this so far, don't forget to subscribe. And tell me in the comments your location and the time there. I love seeing where everyone's watching from. "I'm fine, Mom," I said. "Of course you are." She set down her fork and looked at me with that expression, the one that was concern-shaped but felt like something else. "It's just, and I mean this with love, maybe it's also time to think about other things. You're 31, a stable partner, building a life." She let it hang there. Camille nodded from across the table, head tilted at exactly that angle, the practiced, calibrated sympathy she deployed on patients and family alike. "Whatever you need, Vanessa, we're all rooting for you." She said it so gently, like she believed it. I looked at my plate. I said, "Thank you." I passed the cornbread. I did not say what I was actually thinking, because I had nowhere else to go on Sundays. Not yet. But something in me noted the tilt of Camille's head, filed it, the way you file things you're going to need later. What I noticed in those Myers Park and Dilworth houses took about 3 weeks to fully register. These families, wealthy, perpetually overscheduled, didn't just need their houses cleaned, they needed their lives managed. I'd show up for a standard cleaning and find a pile of contractors' cards on the counter with an apologetic note about the guest bathroom tile. Or I'd arrive to find the client on the phone, overwhelmed, asking her assistant about catering quotes for an event 6 weeks out. I watched a man spend 45 minutes on a Tuesday morning trying to coordinate a plumber, a painter, and a furniture delivery in the same window. I watched a woman in Dilworth almost cry over a catering cancellation for a dinner party 72 hours out. Every single time I thought, I know how to solve that. 6 years building operational systems for a medical center. I knew how to manage vendors, coordinate schedules, handle contracts, anticipate failure points, and build redundancies. I knew how to talk to contractors. I knew how to plan events, track budgets across multiple simultaneous moving parts. The things making wealthy people tear their hair out on a Tuesday morning were, for me, Tuesday mornings. I registered the LLC in January. Cornerstone Concierge Group. I chose it because I wanted something structural, a foundation, not a flourish. Got the EIN from the IRS website in 20 minutes. Built the first website myself at my kitchen table between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. on a Friday using a template. Wrote the service menu based on what I had actually watched people need: household vendor management, event planning, personal procurement, travel planning, property liaison. I priced it carefully, not cheap because cheap signals unreliability in that market, and sent the first proposal to a client I'd been cleaning for, a woman named Deborah who worked in commercial real estate and who had, 3 weeks earlier, told me she'd give anything not to deal with her contractor situation herself. Deborah called back within 2 hours. "This is exactly what I need. How soon can you start?" That first contract was worth $12,000 over 3 months. I stared at the signed agreement on my phone screen in the Walgreens parking lot for a long time, and I felt something shift in my chest that wasn't triumph. It was too quiet for triumph. It was the feeling of a hypothesis confirmed, something clicking into place. I kept the cleaning work. I needed the income, and more than that, I needed to stay invisible while Cornerstone found its footing. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell anyone except my friend Brianna, who responded by saying, "Okay, but you have to let me be your first investor when you're ready," which made me laugh for the first time in what felt like months. I worked from my car during lunch breaks and from my kitchen table at night. I answered client emails at 6 in the morning. I reinvested every dollar: a better website, a part-time assistant, liability insurance, professional memberships that got me access to vendor networks I needed. And Sunday dinners continued. I continued to attend them. I continued to be the one who brought the side dish and cleared the plates. Camille continued to be the sun. I continued to be the weather. Under all of it, Cornerstone grew. Thanksgiving was the one I think about most. About 15 people at my parents' house: aunts, cousins, my uncle from Raleigh, Camille's boyfriend Marcus. My mother had outdone herself with the food. For the first 20 minutes, it was possible to almost believe it was just a family gathering. The toast happened over dessert. My mother stood up, holding her sparkling cider, smiling around the table with the warmth of someone who genuinely believed she was being generous. I want to say how thankful I am for this family, for Douglas, who has been my partner for 34 years. For Camille, she nodded at Camille, who accepted it with gracious, practiced modesty, who never stops making us proud. And for Vanessa, she looked at me and her smile softened into something intended to be tender. We all hope this coming year brings you what you're looking for, sweetheart, that you find your footing, find your calling. A pause. Not everyone is built for the same path, and there's no shame in that. We love you no matter what. Not everyone is born for the big things. The words were so gentle, so utterly without apparent malice. She believed them to be a kindness. I raised my glass. I smiled. I took a long, slow sip of my water. I had switched to water 10 minutes earlier, and I said nothing. Marcus was looking at his plate. Tasha was looking at me. Camille was looking at the table with a small smile that could have meant anything. I set my glass down slowly, precisely, and I thought, I am going to let you have this. I am going to let you stand here in what you don't know, and I am going to let you have it. The group chat arrived 3 weeks later. My niece Jade, 16, sweet kid, not really a kid I blamed for any of this, accidentally forwarded it to me instead of a school friend. A screenshot of a family group chat I hadn't known existed, titled The Hartley Crew, about 2 years of messages. I opened it at my desk in the Cornerstone office. We had rented a small space in uptown Charlotte by then, nothing glamorous, but ours, at 11:30 at night after everyone else had gone home. I read for 2 hours without stopping. There were screenshots of my Instagram posts with comments from my mother, from Camille, from aunts I had loved. Comments like, "Bless her heart," and "She really thinks this is going to turn around," and "Did y'all see she's still doing the cleaning thing?" A thread from about 18 months ago where someone had suggested, apparently seriously, that they should set me up with a recently divorced man. Someone more low-key, you know, someone who isn't focused on career stuff. A photo of my old resume, the one I'd sent out after the termination, the one I was quietly proud of, and underneath it, a message from Camille. She really thought this was going to work, LOL. 3 laughing emojis. My mother had reacted with a heart. I put my phone down. I looked at the white wall of my office. I breathed. I took an internal inventory and found that the tears weren't there. I had done my crying already, in increments, quietly, over 3 years, in cars and bathrooms, and once in a storage room at a client's house when I thought no one was home and the client came back early and I had to pretend I had something in my eye. The grief had been processed in pieces, without fanfare. I picked my phone back up and scrolled to the folder in my email labeled Charlotte Business Journal, 2024 Events. An invitation I'd been sitting with for 6 weeks, uncertain whether to RSVP. The Charlotte Business Journal's annual Entrepreneur of the Year Gala, Omni Hotel, December 12th. I was a nominated finalist, 3rd year running, first 2 I'd declined. I opened the RSVP form. I booked a table for 10. I sent invitations to my mother, my father, Camille, Marcus, my Aunt Phyllis, my Uncle Derek, 3 cousins, including Tasha. I described it in the email as a work event. I kept it vague. I pressed send at 12:17 in the morning. Then I opened a new document and spent the next 3 hours writing my acceptance speech, just in case. The countdown from that moment felt different than anything I'd experienced building the business. I had 72 hours knowing exactly what was going to happen in that ballroom, knowing my family thought they were attending some kind of company dinner, knowing that whatever composure Camille maintained in public, she would be sitting 10 feet from me while 400 people heard the story she'd spent years helping to write. I didn't call anyone. I didn't rehearse the speech out loud. I just kept working, kept answering emails, kept showing up to the office, and let the clock run. Cornerstone had $1.85 million in annual revenue by the time of that gala. 14 employees, including 3 account managers, 2 event coordinators, and Jerome in logistics, who I was convinced could teleport. Contracts with 4 tech startups in the Ballantine corridor, 2 Charlotte-based entertainers I won't name here, and a rotating roster of about 40 private household clients. We'd been written up twice in the Charlotte Observer's business section. My family had seen none of it. I know because nothing in the Hartley crew referenced any of it. As far as they were concerned, I was still cleaning houses. The night of the gala, I drove myself. Burgundy dress, tailored. In the inside pocket of my blazer, a pair of clean latex gloves, still in their packaging. I'd bought them specifically for tonight. Not to make a point, nobody was going to see them. I put them there so I would know they were there, so I wouldn't forget that the woman walking into that ballroom and the woman who'd driven to Myers Park at 7 in the morning with her hair tied back were the same person. That the distance between those two wasn't something that had happened to me. It was something I had built. My family was at table 7. I had arranged the seating. Clear sightline to the stage. My mother was in her church navy, the good dress. Camille wore something gray and elegant. I stopped at their table briefly, warmly, giving nothing away. "This is a beautiful venue," my mother said, looking around with the slightly overwhelmed expression of someone who hadn't quite expected this level of production. "Your company put this together?" "No, Mom," I said it pleasantly. "I'm being recognized tonight, for the business." She nodded in the specific way that meant she didn't fully understand but was going to wait and see. "Well, that's wonderful, sweetie." She said it like she was complimenting a child's drawing. I smiled. I moved to my table. The Charlotte Business Journal's editor-in-chief read the announcement. This year's Entrepreneur of the Year award goes to Vanessa Hartley, founder and CEO of Cornerstone Concierge Group. The applause was sustained. I stood up and the room was bright, and the walk to the stage felt significant the way some short distances do. And when I turned to face the room with the award in both hands, heavier than I'd expected, I could see table 7 clearly without looking directly at it. I had the speech memorized. I didn't give the memorized speech. "I want to talk about invisibility," I said, and the room went quiet in a particular way. Not the fun kind. The kind where you can be in a room full of people who are supposed to know you, and you can do good work, careful work, work you're genuinely proud of, and the people in that room will still look through you like you're not quite there. I know that kind of invisibility from the inside. I paused, not for effect, because I needed the pause. A few years ago, I lost a job I had given everything to. I lost it in a way that was not fair and not my doing. And the aftermath, the silence from people I trusted, the retracted references, the reputation that took on water overnight, that was one of the hardest periods of my life. I held the award in both hands, feeling its weight. And then I took a job cleaning houses, in Myers Park, in Dilworth. I want to be honest about what that was, because I think honesty is the only interesting thing I can offer tonight. It was hard. It smelled like lemon bleach. I cried in my car more than once. And it was also, I mean this completely, the most clarifying experience of my professional life, because it showed me exactly what people actually needed and exactly what I was capable of providing. A pause. I didn't look at table 7. I didn't have to. Cornerstone exists because I kept my eyes open when it would have been easier to keep them down. It exists because I put in work when no one believed in it, when no one even knew about it. I don't have a story about a mentor who believed in me or a family member who saw my potential and pushed me forward. My story is about what happens when you build something without any of that. When the belief is internal and the work is solitary, and the wins are quiet until they aren't anymore. I let that land. This award is not the destination. It's the moment when the room catches up to something that was already true. I held the award up briefly. Thank you to the Charlotte Business Journal. Thank you to my team, every one of you. And to everyone who has ever been the person in the room that nobody's photographing. This one's for you. In the front row, a woman was writing on a notepad. Andrea Watkins, Charlotte Business Journal. She had been watching since I first stepped up, pen moving. I clocked her and thought, write it down. Write all of it down. My mother found me near the coat check 20 minutes later, still crying. Not delicately, but genuinely, the kind that makes a person's face go slightly unrecognizable. She moved toward me with her arms opening. Vanessa, baby, I had no idea. I stepped back, not dramatically, one step, and I looked at her. I know you didn't, I said. Her arms were still partially raised. Her face rearranged itself. I'm so proud of you. I have always, Mom, quietly, the way you speak when you're being careful and clear at the same time. You used to say family supports family. I believed that for a long time. I held her gaze. I think I finally understand what it actually means. I picked up my coat. Tell Dad I said goodnight. It was a beautiful evening. I walked away. She said my name once, softly, behind me. I kept walking. Camille texted at 1:18 that morning. Vanessa, tonight was incredible. You should have told us. I don't know what I mean. Just congratulations. I read it. I put the phone down. I did not respond. The Charlotte Business Journal ran a full profile in January, 3 pages, from mop to millions, how Vanessa Hartley built a concierge empire from the ground up. Andrea Watkins had done real reporting. She'd spoken to clients, to my employees, to Jerome, who told her working for Cornerstone was the first job I ever had where I felt like my instincts actually mattered. The profile ran with a photo of me in the uptown office, standing at a window with the Charlotte skyline behind me, the award on the desk. Within the first week, 2 calls from private equity contacts, 1 introduction to a woman running a luxury lifestyle management fund out of Atlanta, and the beginning of conversations serious enough to require a lawyer and several weeks of due diligence. My mother framed the article. She told me this herself on a phone call 3 weeks after publication. Cornerstone opened its Raleigh office in March. Atlanta followed in September. 22 employees, annualized revenue climbing toward $3 million. A new home in Dilworth, the real Dilworth, with a back terrace that looked out over the part of the city I had cleaned my way through and then built my way into. I go to therapy on Tuesdays now. I started about 4 months after the gala, not because I was broken, but because I am a person who believes in maintaining the systems that keep her functional. My therapist, Dr. Anita Barnes, does not let me get away with anything, which is exactly what I needed. Camille calls sometimes. The calls have a shape to them. She asks about the business, tells me she always knew I had it in me, which she says with such conviction, I think she may have actually revised her own history enough to believe it. I am civil, genuinely civil, not the performance I used to do at Sunday dinners. I simply don't require anything from her anymore, and that is a different thing from being cold. It is what happens when you stop carrying a debt that was never yours. My mother sent a birthday card in August, handwritten, not a printed message, actual handwriting, several lines in her careful script. She said she thought about me often. She said she was sorry for ways she'd made me feel that she hadn't fully understood at the time. She said she was proud of me. I read it twice, sitting on my terrace with my morning coffee, with the city spread out in the particular golden light that Charlotte gets in late summer. I set the card on the table beside my mug. I sat with it for a while. I haven't called her back yet. I might. I'm not ready to tell you what happens next with that, because I'm not ready to know myself. What I can tell you is that my peace is not contingent on her. It is not contingent on the award, the article, the expansion, or any of the external things people expect to be the answer. My peace is something I built the same way I built Cornerstone, in the dark, without an audience, one decision at a time. And if you've ever been the person in the room that no one's photographing, if you've ever been the one clearing the plates while someone else gets the applause, if you've ever built something quietly and had people look straight through it, then you already know the thing I spent 3 years figuring out. You don't need anyone's eyes on you to make the work real. The work is real whether they see it or not. The only question is whether you're going to keep doing it. I kept doing it. That's the whole story. The girl who cleaned other people's houses built one of her own, and nobody had to hand it to her. Not even close.